The world is moving too fast for people to keep up with. So many of the things you know will become worthless in the next 5 to 10 years. But this is exciting, not scary. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why. Welcome to ALUX, the place where future billionaires come to get inspired. The power of good enough. Top performers get priority in life if they play their cards right. But being a top performer means dedicating years of your life to mastering one single thing. This has a couple of problems. 1. It takes years to master. In his Outliers book, Malcolm Gladwell popularized the idea that it takes roughly 10,000 hours to master a skill. He came to that conclusion by analyzing different case studies, including programmers, top-performing athletes, musicians, and so on. And while the exact number may or may not be true, one thing is clear. To become world-class at anything, you need a lot of effort, time, and dedication. Natural talent doesn't push you as far as you might think. Gifted people find it easier to learn and practice, but they still have to learn and practice a lot. Which brings us to 2. What you're learning might become obsolete. We mentioned in a video a couple of weeks ago something you probably ignored. It takes around 9 to 12 months to learn something and capitalize on it. We're living in times of immense change. The difference between early adopters and bystanders increases each day. At the same time, the barrier of entry gets lower each day. People are getting hired from Twitter and Discord servers. What you learned in 4 years of college, people are learning in 4 weeks by themselves. Micro-learning and curated knowledge outperforms any other traditional means of education. It used to be really risky to be an early adopter in any field. With that said, taking 3 to 5 years to learn something new might not be enough to become world-class, and it's too long to learn just that. 3. You need to be sure that's what you want to do for the next decade. But let's say you go the route of becoming world-class, and you want to be one of the greatest programmers the world has ever seen. You need to make sure your new skill is evergreen. Compare how everything is done now to how it's done 10 years ago. Nothing is the same. People find it really hard to change career paths down the line because they get too attached to what they're doing and don't want to see all that effort gone to waste. The power of good enough comes from versatility and time frame. It takes a really short time to get good enough, which in turn allows you to be really flexible in what you decide to do. Okay, now let's talk about what does good enough actually mean? Depending on the context, good enough has different values. Generally speaking, you're good enough if someone is willing to pay you to do it. Or if you want a hard number, you're good enough if you're in the top 20% of your field. If you think that's a high number, you underestimate how average people usually are. In a traditional job market, good enough means your standard and consistent performance is well above minimum requirements. This isn't just about knowing the fundamentals, it's about mastering them. Only after mastering the fundamentals can you successfully get away with the rest being, well, less than mastery. Being consistently good enough is what will make you great. Okay, cool. Now that's covered, how to get good enough. The most frustrating thing in your journey of getting good enough is that you kinda suck at the start, and it's pretty hard to continue to do something if the first time you try it is a major failure. It's easy to get overwhelmed by the amount of information and sub-skills you supposedly need to know, but that's because people love to overcomplicate what they're actually doing. Ask any person with a job exactly what they're doing and they'll tell you one of 2 things. Nothing much, or a lot. Actually, it's really complicated, a lot of work. I don't recommend it. People don't really want to tell you that what they're doing isn't really that hard if you're smart with the approach. Here's the thing. It takes around 30 to 50 hours to get good enough at any skill. Mind you, we're not talking about skills like brain surgery. In that case, you'd like to be a little better than good enough, but those are the outliers. 2 Saturdays ago, we talked about deep focus and slow productivity, how to be efficient in a highly inefficient world. We challenged you to take 30 hours for the next 2 weeks to develop knowledge on a particular skill or topic. For those of you that took the challenge seriously, congratulations, you should really be close to good enough. For those that didn't, you get a second chance, and this time we'll give you a little bonus. There are a couple of things you need in order to be good enough. 1. Access to information. And luckily, that's free most of the time. If today there's something you can't find, you either suck at using Google search or you don't know the right person to ask. If anything, you should have the problem of too much information, in which case you need to get good at curated knowledge. That's what we do with our premium courses. We do the work, cut out the fluff, and provide you with only what's valuable. 2. You need a clear idea of what good enough means for your personal context. If you want to build landing pages for yourself or your clients, see what a good enough landing page looks like. If you want to start creating content and explore your creative side, well, see what a good enough video looks like. If you want to start writing and create a community around your content, see what a good enough article looks like. You get the picture. 3. The skill deconstructed. You either deconstruct it yourself or ask someone who is good enough at it to help you out. Here is a little story about deconstructing skills. When Benjamin Franklin was a little boy, he really sucked at writing. He wanted to get better at it, and the way he taught himself how to write was pretty simple. He took articles from The Spectator, which had some of the best articles of his day. He read them and then took simple notes. He then tried to recreate the articles based on his notes and compared his work with the original piece. In this process, he found what mistakes he was making and what to correct in order to match the quality of articles from The Spectator. In this case, he discovered his limited vocabulary was holding him back, so he focused on that. In his words, "I might possibly, in time, come to be a tolerable English writer." Yeah, that was his way of saying good enough writer. Every skill out there has an 80-20 ratio. We talked about this before, but as a reminder, usually 20% of the sub-skills make 80% of the final product. Your job here is to find what those 20% sub-skills are, and then try to recreate what you consider to be good enough. 4. Do this process for about 30 to 50 hours. It should take you around 2 weeks of 3 hours a day to get there. This is why we tasked you with that challenge 2 weeks ago. If you think that's not enough time to get good enough, that's because you either didn't try or didn't fully commit to it the way you needed to. No shade, but if you want to be in that top 20% of what you do, you gotta make it a priority and dedicate the time. 5. A good reminder system. Funny enough, the most common reason people don't stick to something is because they forget they're doing it. Think about it like this. How many times have you said to yourself you'll start eating healthy and then just forget about it? You say you'll do it next time, and when next time comes, you already forgot about it. That won't work. Getting good enough is fast. It's pretty simple, but it's not easy, and certainly not something you do casually. Alright, now one final thing before we wrap all this up. How to exploit good enough. The real value of being good enough comes when you stack multiple skills. You should aim to be good enough at around 3 to 5 skills that work well with each other. The more unique your skill stack, the more valuable you become. People get too attached to their job title. They'll tell you what job they have, not what they know how to do well. In the current world that we are living in, if you want to have a lot of options, you cannot simply know how to do just one thing unless you are world class. You must also not fall into the trap of being a mile wide and an inch deep. People don't really think it's possible to be good at multiple skills because from a very young age, you were asked what you want to be when you grow up. The real question should be, what would you like to be able to do when you grow up? This isn't your mom and dad's world anymore. People who fail to adapt will have a lot to suffer through in the upcoming years. Right now, millennials are having the worst time in this economy. They can't afford homes, they can't afford a decent life, and the thought of starting a family is far away. Did the economy and world leaders fail them? Yes. Will crying about it on Twitter change anything? Not really. You can't stress about things you can't control. Your whole focus should be on things that you can control. And luckily for you, if you open your eyes and ears, you'll find that in the days we are living in, there actually are a lot of things that you can control. You just might need to shift your perspective before you see it. We hope you found this video valuable, A-Luxers. Before you go, we'd like to ask those of you who went through the challenge, what did you learn in the past 2 weeks? Post your answers in the comments and let the community know who the true A-Luxers are. And as a thank you for sticking with us until the end, as always, we've got a bonus for you. We'd like to continue this 2-week challenge and maybe make this a trend every 2 Saturdays, but let's make it something different. Of those of you who want to participate, write in the comments the skill you want to become good enough at doing. We'll make a list and check up on you in 2 weeks from now. Let's start improving our lives, A-Luxers. Thank you for watching this video, A-Luxer. If you found it valuable, consider subscribing to our channel and joining our awesome community. And if you're still hungry for more, we handpicked this video for you to watch next. Or head over to our website for more amazing content. See you tomorrow.